Hey everybody, Peter Soda here from SlashFilm.com. I'm here with
Jermaine Lucier,
Angie Hahn,
and Russ Fisher.
And we're here in Slash Film headquarters. It is Saturday night at San Diego Comic-Con 2013. We just got out of the Marvel panel. We're going to give you our reactions to the footage we saw from Thor,
The Dark World, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, and a little tease of Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yes. So let's start off with Thor 2, The Dark World. What did you guys think?
The first Thor had that sort of Dutch angle, very cartoonish, weird thing that, you know, for some people works, for some people didn't. This looks more like Game of Thrones. It's
very Game of Thrones. Very like, yeah.
You know, and I think that I don't know. I thought the Thor trailer we'd seen before was not very interesting to me. I didn't really care for it. I didn't dislike it, but I was like, whatever. And seeing this, you see some really big action. There's great stuff with Thor looking really confident with his powers. There's some kind of interesting stuff with Loki, with Natalie Portman's character, and a few other new elements, and all of this to get together, complete with that kind of Game of Thrones sheen. I was like, okay.
The overall production design of it just looks so much better from every single piece of it.
Yeah, and I think for the first trailer that you've seen, most of that stuff seemed like it was like Act 1, Act 2, with a couple smatterings of maybe some other stuff. And because it ended with Loki breaking out, right? And this trailer sort of starts with that, almost. Not really, but it's sort of like in the first minute and a half. And then you get the next minute of just this epic action from this sort of next set of the journey. And
like these big, almost like Viking style, like
ships.
Battle sequences. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. They're on the high seas. They're going across the plains. You know.
Yeah.
It was it was great. It looked really good.
Should we talk about how it ended?
Well, yes, I can talk about
that. Go for it.
You know how we were saying it was really Game of Thronesy? The ending is also very Game of Thronesy. Yes. Should I just say what happens?
Yeah.
It was Marvel thought it was cool enough to show us.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
fast forward about 30 seconds if you don't want to know.
Yeah, 20 seconds if you don't want to know. Thor is going for his hammer. The hammer's coming to his hand, and what happens?
And then his hand gets chopped off. Or at least that's what it looked
by
like.
Loki.
By Loki, who betrays him.
So apparently, even if you can take the people out of Game of Thrones, but you can't take the Game of Thrones out of the directors.
Right. And so what happens then? Does the hammer go into like his severed stump?
Oh my god!
Or does it land in his hand, which is laying over there, and he's kind of like Luke trying to pull it like a... I don't know. I don't know.
It was a really cool beat to end the trailer on. It really made you guess.
Yeah. But I'm excited for it, but I'm more excited for Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, definitely.
This film, what impressed me from the stuff we saw is the action. The action looks like a mix of The Raid and Bourne. Like, it's really fast-paced, really hard-hitting, and it doesn't look anything like... It's what you said, like, where the first one for this, too, was kind of a little bit cartoony and a homage to, like, that era. This is, like, today.
Well, Captain America is, like, a badass. First scene you see was him in this elevator where he basically F's up, like, 12 dudes. Yeah. And then from there, the action is really hand-to-hand and cool, but then there's huge set pieces, too.
Yeah. And in fact, you said handheld, and the Russos told me earlier today that they shot the entire movie handheld, which I think is the first Marvel movie to do that. And besides, this does take place very much in the present day. It's a political movie, and we've heard that this might be a thriller that's inspired by some big films of the 70s, and that really shows in the footage because it's all about how Cap is very uneasy with modern national security techniques. There's a lot of concern over whether we're morally doing the right thing as we approach the protection of our nation, and that's where some of the conflict is, but then there's also conflict from the Winter Soldier, this other guy. Yeah. Who you guys got?
Yeah, but it also looks much bigger than the first film. Like we see the SHIELD helicarrier coming to a big... What?
It's alright. Fast forward 10 seconds.
We see some epic looking stuff that looks way bigger. It looks like Avenger quality big.
Yeah.
I mean, Cap has joined SHIELD. in the movie. So he is like an agent for America, and I'm really curious about this movie. We saw Robert Redford in the footage, who looked really cool, and the Winter Soldier only comes in the very end of the footage, which I thought was interesting because he is the titular character.
Yeah,
and one of the things that's really cool too is we do see a little bit of the Falcon flying.
Oh, that's right.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
And that you may have seen set photos of Anthony Mackie doing this green screen kind of on wires, falling off of some sort of structure and firing guns up above him. And that kind of leads to him extending the wings and swooping away. And the way they realized it looks really cool, actually. It's pretty great.
We should move on to Guardians of the Galaxy, which I know almost nothing about the comic books, but boy, am I sold by seeing it. It's so batshit weird and crazy. And
it's really
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt is it's just hilarious.
I mean, I don't know, like you, I don't know that much about it, but I thought that Chris Pratt was just such a good choice because, well, without knowing too much about the Star-Lord from the comics, I mean, he's got the wit and the humor to pull off, like the...
the joke in the trailer is that nobody knows who Star-Lord is.
There are
right
multiple
from the beginning, they're
to
like, "Who's this guy?" And
it seems like such a Josh Whedon joke too. Like it seems, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's very much like a Mal Reynolds sort of guy in a way, and you can see that, and it's just like the movie knows what it is, and the movie knows that we don't know what it is, but it's very confident, and it's just like I'm going to throw you footage of an animated raccoon shooting.
That was what I'm saying. I couldn't believe that. The movie's been shooting for like a week and a half.
They said they were on day 13 or 14.
There you go. And like we saw almost fully realized versions of Star-Lord's. He's just a guy, but then Drax and Groot and the Rocket Raccoon and Gamora, and I was like, "This is actually happening. We're seeing all of this right now."
Yeah.
And it looks so good.
And they
Chelsea Riley, Peter Serafinowicz is in there.
And they set it to what was the song?
Hook on a Feeling.
Hook on a Feeling. Yeah.
Which is just such a. This just felt
It makes me think of Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah,
which is sort of the tone.
Yeah, this felt like no other Marvel movie that we've
absolutely.
ever seen. And I know if you could say that a lot looking back, like Thor felt like no other Marvel, but this felt like almost no. Like it doesn't feel like
it doesn't feel like a Marvel movie. It feels like a sci-fi comedy.
Yeah.
And I think they really wanted to do something different, and it's obviously going to be something different. And
I think another point to make here is that none of these movies feel anything like the other. A lot of the Marvel movies we've seen so far have kind of a current that ran through all of them that kept them together, and this feels like a more diverse slate of offerings, and these sequels are clearly sequels to movies, but they don't feel like they're retreading the same ground. They don't feel like the same old thing, and it seems like Marvel really has the confidence to go out and just do all what it feels gutsy, and it feels like they're making choices based on their gut rather than based on these big committees of people, poring over the details and too much effort.
It's nice to see that even though the Avengers in Phase 1, even though that worked out great, that they're not just like, oh, let's just keep doing more of the same. We're gonna try something completely different, completely weird with characters that nobody knows, and this was a great introduction to the characters.
Yeah. And it seems like the obvious place to go with Avengers 2 is to go Galactic now that you're going Guardians of the Galaxy and go Thanos, but big reveal. That doesn't seem where it's going at all.
Ultron.
Yeah, Ultron. Tell us a little bit about Ultron.
I mean, it's been a long time since I read some of this stuff, but Ultron is essentially an evil or a very malicious artificial intelligence that's created by Hank Pym, who's the first Ant-Man. I think he's the first Ant-Man. I'm sure somebody will correct me.
He's the Ant-Man we're going to get in the Marvel universe. That's good.
Well, we don't know.
But this is a recent miniseries, right?
Ultron's a character that goes back decades, and there have been many, dozens of versions of Ultron over the years as he's been destroyed and recreated, and basically he's a big evil robot with an adamantium body. Adamantium is the same stuff Wolverine's claws are made out of, and it's indestructible, which means that Ultron is a tough son of a bitch. Yeah. And we don't know that much more,
what we do know, though, is that's the traditional origin story, but Ant-Man comes out after the Avengers too, so it's how is that going to work? We don't know. And if he's the main villain, where's Thanos? Thanos has some kind of role in Guardians. We don't know how big, but it seems pretty likely that Guardians is its own one shot, has nothing to do with this, and that maybe they factor more in with the real Avengers or the traditional Avengers in Phase 3.
Yeah. We'll see where it goes.
But we don't know. There was it was like a little bombshell. It was something for us to really think about over the next couple months. And years.
But count me excited for all 4 films. Thor probably the least of the bunch for me. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think Thor is just a character that he's got his fans, but that's just a movie. I think once we see it and see everything about it, we're really gonna like it. But the other two are a little bit more in our genre specific, and I think that sort of makes it a little more comfortable. And I'm really, I would go with that. I would say it's sort of the order we talked about is how I'm the order I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
I'm the most excited for Guardians.
Yeah,
because
totally.
that one is just going to be weird in a really good way. I hope.
Yeah. I mean, the uncertainty of Guardians makes it really attractive because you just don't, and it's hard to maybe make people understand this without seeing the footage. But the footage doesn't look like stuff that studios make. We don't see movies that look like this, and so that's very appealing. But I also like the Captain America stuff because, people accuse comic book movies of being too frothy or being really superficial or not having anything to do with real life. And Captain America is very much based in things that are current and that are real and that are very important. And that's ballsy in and of itself because people don't want politics in their escapist entertainment, and Captain America looks like it's really going in there.
Yeah, it really complicates the heroes of the Marvel universe because he's probably the most purely heroic character, and then he's clearly not on board with something that obviously
With Shield, who's sort of our our sort of framework for Phase 1. Through Coulson, who we don't know what the TV show, how that's all going to fit into. That's a whole other layer too.
It's interesting. We should wrap it up. You can find more of all of our work at slashfilm.com. You can find me at slashfilm on Twitter.
At Jermaine Lucier.
At AJHAN.
And at Russ Fisher.
We will see you next time.